Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome all of you to the Fall Faculty Assembly. I'm David Weintraub, and I'm Chair of the Faculty Senate this year. With great pleasure, I would like to start this afternoon's program by introducing to you Professor Robert E. Whaley. Professor Whaley is the Valair Blair Potter Professor of Management in Finance and co-director of the Financial Markets Research Center at Owen. He received his undergraduate degree at the University of Alberta and his MBA and PhD degrees from the University of Toronto. He was a member of the faculties of the University of Alberta, the University of Chicago, and Duke University before moving to Vanderbilt in 2006. Professor Whaley has served as a consultant to investment houses, accounting firms, governmental agencies, law firms, and futures and options exchanges worldwide. He is the co-author of 8 books, including the recently published Derivatives, Markets, Valuation, and Risk Management, as well as more than 60 articles in leading academic journals. He is a renowned expert in the field of derivative securities, including contract valuation and risk management, market microstructure, and market volatility. During these financially interesting times during which we now live, Professor Whaley's lecture is especially timely. Please give a warm welcome to Professor Whaley.
I've been instructed I have 12 minutes, so I'm putting my timer on. Let me get started here. I appreciate the invitation to come over here. Such a distinguished group of scholars being gathered at Vanderbilt University with so many different backgrounds. I'm trying to keep it general in my comments, and I hope you hold me to that. It's a pleasure being here, doubly pleasure, because Owen School, I don't think has participated in this event for some time, and I'm glad to be their representative today. Since most of you are probably unaware of exactly what goes on in the finance research at Owen, at Vanderbilt University, I thought I'd give you a thumbnail sketch of what the finance faculty is about. It's a modest number of people, less than 10. It's a nice balance between theorists and empiricists. Our research focuses on a broad variety of areas, from corporate finance to asset pricing to financial institutions. Where we're best known, however, is in the financial markets area. We have leading scholars, Hans Stoll in that area, Bill Christie, as well as a number of others. The research has been published in the best academic outlets, but not only that, it's had an impact on the financial markets themselves. Research conducted at Vanderbilt has influenced how stocks trade on stock exchanges. Key research was done here that caused the exchanges to decimalize prices. Research conducted here has led directly into the options market, where margining systems are based upon algorithms that were in fact derived in research published here. We've contributed to derivative contract designs. What is the optimal design of a contract from a social standpoint? What should be trading out there? We've talked about how you measure hedge fund performance. Measuring fund performance on things like hedge funds is a very difficult task because they change strategies all the time. We're doing cutting-edge research on how you evaluate the performance of those instruments. We've spent a lot of time designing indices for exchanges, and I'll talk a little bit about those today. In summary, I mean, what the finance faculty is doing is research that is directly applied and quickly applied in practice. The topic I chose today, and now narrowing the focus, is market volatility. And I think all of you are familiar with the volatility we've observed in recent days. The market was down another 170 points today. When you think about market volatility, you usually think about movements in the Dow. There was one movement that scared the heck out of me on Monday, August 8th, where the Dow fell 630 points, or 5.5% in one day. It was doubly concerning for me because I happened to be sitting in a pub in Dublin watching all of this transpire on TV, knowing that I couldn't react and get out of positions. The problem with talking about movements in Dow is that it's always backward looking. I can tell you how much it moved today or how much it moved on August 8th, but financial decisions aren't based upon backward-looking estimates of volatility. You need to look forward. Financial decision-making involves expectations about the future, expectation about returns, expectations about volatility. The question then is there an estimate of expected volatility out there? The answer is yes. What the market has done recently, the financial press, is they've really focused on an index called VIX. It's the CBOE Market Volatility Index. If you watch shows like, this is Simon Hobbs on CNBC, usually about a half hour during the day and little 2 or 3 minutes segments is focused in on this volatility index. I'm pleased to say I created this index more than 2 decades ago. On this particular day, the index was at 16.71, which I'm going to come back to a little bit later. I remember the date it was April 19th. It's not that far back, because another research colleague of mine over at Owen and I had developed something called alpha indices, which I probably won't have time to talk about, for the NASDAQ, and what we got to do on that particular day was ring the opening bell on NASDAQ. So what is the CBOE Market Volatility Index? It's a number that you'll see in the corner of the screen if you watch these news shows, as I tend to do. It's not volatility observed today. It's what the market is saying is the expected volatility over the next 30 days. So you saw that 16.71%. That was the prediction of the volatility moving forward from April 19th over the next 30 days. So how is this number determined? It's an interesting way in which it's determined. I would think about it as the price of insurance. The price of insurance, if you think about, all of us have insurance policies of various sorts, home insurance, fire insurance, car insurance, whatever. The price of insurance, if you want to think about it simply, is the cost of a catastrophic event in the future times the probability it will occur. That's the actuarial value of insurance. And so if the probability of that event occurring goes up, you can expect the price of your insurance to go up. Simple. VIX is the price of insurance. What insurance are you talking about? It's the insurance of insuring the value of your stock portfolio. All of you probably have stock portfolios in your retirement plan of some sort. Suppose you believe that stocks were going to drop over the next 30 days or the next 10 days or whatever. Ideally, you'd like to hedge that particular risk. You can do it in 2 ways. One is you can sell the stocks and you can buy treasuries. That's called a flight to quality, although Standard & Poor's tell us now that treasuries aren't that high a quality. But I don't know who believes them. The way you would protect it is if you didn't want to sell, is you could buy portfolio insurance, and the way you would do it is buy S&P 500 puts. There's a market. That market trades hundreds of thousands of contracts in a given day. It's incredibly liquid. And as the prices of these S&P 500 options change, so does the VIX. There's a 1-to-1 correspondence. VIX is based upon S&P 500 option prices. And what it is it's a barometer of fear in the marketplace. To show you how actively traded, how its movements, I've here given you intraday price moves of the VIX. I prepared these notes on Tuesday of this week, and so I gave you 5 days on this particular chart. VIX was 32 last Wednesday. You can see over on the left-hand side of the chart. Then there was some news event overnight, and what happened is there was a gap opening. VIX went up about 500 basis points just on some overnight news. I can't remember. There have been so many news events that have been trickling out these past days. I'm not sure which one it was. You can see that the volatility persisted at a very high level for about 2 days. And then after all of that excitement, people settled down over the weekend and decided that things weren't that bad. The price of insurance opened on the Monday at a much lower level, notched up, and then it's been slowly recovering back down to more normal levels. Should we be concerned about the levels we're at now? I think it closed today at a level of 40. I'll comment on that in short order, but it's best when you're thinking about those sorts of things to put things in perspective. What this chart does is it plots the S&P 500 index, it's in red, and the VIX, it's in blue. And these represent the daily closing prices over the past, whatever it is, horizon, several decades. What you can see is VIX spikes. It tends to spike at some crazy event. You can see that it spiked at a level, the blue spike, the first one was in October 1987. The stock market crash caused the VIX to go up to a closing level of 142. Okay? During the day, it got up to as high as 172. There was a lot more worry going on at that point than there is now, if you use that interpretation of VIX. You can see other spikes through time. One of those spikes in the middle there is when, let's see, that would be the Kuwait invasion. There's other spikes corresponding to UAL restructurings. The biggest spike since October 87 was actually in October 2008, an event that we all remember because it affected this university in some pretty serious ways. The level of VIX then was well over 80. The levels we're seeing right now are about 40. And so the anxiety that exists in the marketplace, judging by the prices of these options, and as reflected in VIX, is not as high as it was a couple of years back. I mean, we're in a tough situation, but not a situation that calls for the drastic measures that you saw a couple years earlier. Another way to measure VIX is to think about it in terms of its historical behavior. What I did here is I calculated the percentiles on the levels of VIX over the past since 1986. Normally you should see VIX in the range of 50% of the time, the 15.4 to 24.5. So levels of 40 are really quite high, and you're in that upper 5% tail when you're talking about those particular measures. So what should it mean to you? Well, it's a number you should look at. If this number is high, I would stay away from the stock market. What it indicates is there's a significant uncertainty that there's going to be a downturn, and it's not an ideal time to get in. If you're out of the market and want to get back in, I would suggest waiting till VIX gets down to levels of about 25 or less. In those environments, the stock market tends to rise. Right now, that's not the case. And so that would be another way in which you can use it. It's also an indicator that even if you have good information, suppose you had information about Apple and Steve Jobs resigning. You thought today that Apple went down. It did go down. But Apple actually rose relative to the market. So this would have been not a good day to get into Apple because Apple's price fell because the market fell, not because Steve Jobs resigned. Apple relative to the market actually went up, and that's the research I was talking about with Jacob Segui. NASDAQ now has Alpha Industries, and you can actually trade that play. Alpha, Apple, with the market effect netted out of it, and that actually went up today. Apple went up 1% relative to the market today. In sum, it's a useful decision-making tool. It's a barometer of the anxiety about the stock market out there. I suggest following it. I had two purposes in talking to you today. One is to give you some idea about what this number is. To many, it remains a mystery. And given that it's been around since 1993, the education process has been slow. The interest spiked around October 2008 and continues to be there. The second reason, I wanted you to know a little bit about the research being conducted by my colleagues over at Owen. It's a young and active group, and undoubtedly you're going to hear more from us in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Whaley. I'm still not sure whether I should take the money out of my mattress and do something else, but we'll see. I want to introduce you to the members of the Faculty Senate for this year. Their pictures are above me, their names are above me. You all know how to read, and I'll leave it at that. I want to tell you a story. 2.5 years ago, I discovered, much to my surprise, that I'd been not only nominated but elected to the Faculty Senate. I was quite surprised. I did not want to be on the Faculty Senate. I thought the Faculty Senate was a worthless organization and not worth my time because they did nothing and got nothing done. The next year, I was on the Faculty Senate, and as best as I could tell, my understanding of the Senate had been right. Then, to my surprise, I was nominated to be chair of the Senate, and I was the only nominee. And I became chair of the Senate, and I ended up on this committee as the chair-elect. And as chair-elect, I actually learned what the Senate does. And I'm quite glad to be on the Senate, and I'd like to convince you, or try to convince you, that the Senate actually does a lot of worthwhile things for you as the faculty of Vanderbilt University, and perhaps to convince some of you that when you're nominated, you ought to accept the nomination and maybe even ask a few people to vote for you so that you end up on the Senate. One of the things I did over the last month is I contacted the leaders of the Senate from most of the last decade and asked them if they could summarize for me in one bullet the accomplishments of the Senate during their year of service. Now, you should understand, as I understood before I became a member of the Senate, that the Senate does not elect or depose chancellors or provosts or vice chancellors or deans. We don't build any buildings. We don't manage the endowment. We don't hire or fire any of you. But we do a lot of things that are incredibly important for the life of the university and for the health of the university. So in 2001, the Senate convinced the university to extend benefits to same-sex partners. I think that's a big deal. Now, again, if I misrepresent anything the Senate does or did, it's all me, not anybody else. 2003, 2004, the Senate was able to simplify the disclosure process for conflict of interest reporting and conflict of commitment reporting. For those of you who have to fill out these forms, this is a big deal. In 2004, 2005, the Senate, working with the administration, established rules and policies for allowing faculty to do classified research both on and off campus. This is a big deal. In 2005, 2006, the Senate revised the grievance committees, the grievance procedures for faculty who have complaints about the tenure or promotion process in which they were involved. This is also a big deal. In 2006, 2007, the Senate worked with the administration to move toward a more centralized and transparent system for students to access all mental health and emotional health services available to them. And just, I think, last month, the little house opened near the Baker Building, which actually does that. It's one-stop shopping for students who need any kind of mental or emotional health support. That year, the Senate also obtained 403B retirement plan option for the faculty. In 2007 and 2008, the Senate worked with the administration to get the university to become more committed toward institutional change regarding sustainability. This is also a big deal. In 2008, 2009, the Senate convinced the provost to actually push forward and implement the Parents in a Pinch program. The Parents in a Pinch program was not a Senate idea, but the idea had stagnated and the Senate made it happen. The provost really made it happen, but we pushed hard. That's a big deal for any of you who have ever had the opportunity or need to use the Parents in a Pinch program. We also were able to get the dates of spring break aligned. For those of you with kids trying to do something at spring break, this is a big deal. We think the dates of spring break across university units will remain aligned. We have a process in place to try to keep that going for a while, so maybe it will. 2 years ago, the Senate, working with the upper administration, established a policy that protects your email. Your email is now private. If you didn't know it, your email did not used to be private. Virtually any member of the administration at any level could have asked to see it. That can't happen now. There are only 4 people in the university who have the right to see your email if there's a need to look at your email. So your email is now protected. This is also a big deal. Last year, the Senate began a review of the honor councils, graduate school, professional schools, undergraduate schools. This is a big review. The review continues this year. I expect that at the end of this year, the Senate will make recommendations on changes that should be made to the honor council. This is a big deal. This is a lot of things. There are a lot of things I haven't mentioned, but as a top 10 list for the last decade, the Senate has done a lot of things that have influenced your lives at this university to make it a better place to work. So I think at this point, I'm convinced the Senate is worth being on, worth trying to lead for a year, and we will try to do more good things for you. What we're working on this year, one of the big projects is to work with the new director of the Office of Technology Transfer. For those of you involved in technology transfer, you know that there have been problems. Last year we wanted to work on this, but the administration said put on the brakes. We're hiring a new director. We're going to expand the office. Both of those things have been done. We're now going to work with the new director to let him know what the faculty was concerned about to try to make that office more functional for all of us. 2 years ago, you may remember, the Graduate Education Task Force issued a report. We're going to look back at that report and figure out what the university has done that was recommended, what the university has not yet done, and make recommendations on what things that have not been done we should still push on. We will continue the review of the honor councils. We're going to take a good look at the international research and training programs that all of you, many of you, are involved in. We're going to decide whether there's any reason that the faculty should make any recommendations to the administration that would provide any guidance for what we should or should not be doing abroad. Right now, there are no such rules that seem to guide any of us. We're going to look at the reimbursement and travel policies for faculty. Many of you think you're acting as the Bank of Vanderbilt when you travel, and many of you would like those policies adjusted, so we're going to look into that. And we're going to try to clone the email privacy policy for your offices. You may not know it, but there is very limited privacy rules for protecting your offices and your labs, so we would like to establish policies for those, and the administration would like to work with us in doing so. So that's what we're up to this year. That's what we've done in the past. I hope I've made some of you think that maybe serving on the Senate in future years would be a worthwhile thing for you to do. I would now like to introduce Chancellor Zeppos, who will give a very brief presentation of the university, the state of the university, and will then respond to your questions.
I want to thank David for his service to the university, and I want to thank him for the introduction and for his enthusiastic embracing of his role in the Faculty Senate. Parental leave, expansion of the Child Care Center, and graduate education Phase 1 were also the result. I don't think we had a parental leave policy until 07, 08, or 08, 09. So many other things. And again, I want to thank Bob Whaley. Bob is on a very distinguished faculty, one of our most distinguished members of the university faculty. I was the provost recruiting Bob to Vanderbilt and flying over to Raleigh-Durham and having lunch with him and coaxing him here. And I remember getting his tenure file, and it was like flew in on golden wings. Like it was from Stockholm. There were so many Nobel laureates in the file, and so we are really lucky to have Bob joining us. I want to thank you all for taking the time out today at the beginning of the year. I know you're all busy, for taking some time away from labs and class preparation. I don't know how many of you were here after May and after graduation, but it was an interesting summer. We still had the cicadas falling, and this was for sure one of the hottest summers in Tennessee's history. So it's great to reconvene, to hope for cooler days, shorter days, and welcome our new faculty, colleagues, our bright students to the campus. I look forward to a cool, vibrant autumn color soon appearing on our campus. And I consider myself particularly given some of the places I have to go, like Washington, D.C., I consider myself very fortunate to be able to come and say I work at Vanderbilt. I'm also particularly grateful to be able to work beside you. We'll celebrate so many of you today, so many of you who have done loyal and extraordinary service for the university, and words really can't express the appreciation I have for the extraordinary commitment you all have for Vanderbilt. So, first of all, the thing I love about this is I usually am viewed as delivering bad news. And maybe that just comes with the territory or the times. But I really like this ceremony because I get to give away awards. And I get to recognize extraordinary achievements. So we are going to recognize some individuals who have made seminal discoveries in their fields and have rendered exemplary service over long periods of time to Vanderbilt. The recipients of these awards have devoted lifetime, their whole career, to the advancement of learning and to increasing our understanding of some of the most complex issues facing humanity. Through the scholarship, the findings, this year's award recipients have transformed lives in countless and untold ways. So I'd like to give some awards away, and David, could you come up and assist me? We're first going to have the honor of paying tribute to faculty who have dedicated 25 years of service to Vanderbilt. And this is a banner year. We are then going to recognize faculty recipients of the Chancellor's Awards for Research, and then we are going to award the Thomas Jefferson Award and the Earl Sutherland Prize for Achievement in Research. First of all, however, I am pleased to announce the names of the faculty members who are celebrating 25 years with this institution. For their quarter century of service, they will receive a chair bearing the Vanderbilt University symbol. I hope to get mine next year. Please hold your applause until all names have been announced. Faculty, I think we have enough room up here, but can you please join me on the stage as I call your name and remain on stage so we can have a group photo made of this remarkable group. From the College of Arts and Science, Michael Auerbach, Vicki Burris. I was told she might not be here. Mark Ellingham. Jim Epstein. Douglas Harden. Tom McGinn. Saeed Umar. Oh, no, you got to stay up here.
I received other directions.
Oh, you did?
So they can get everybody in the picture.
I guess that just shows, you know, limits of my authority. What? But they're you're leaving and they're staying. David, what do you want to do here?
I was told to
Have them parade around you in front like a football team. Yeah, maybe. I don't think it'll be the best team we field this year. We're going to have a better one. I promise you. By the time we start, every other school is going to be on probation. Yeah. It's a new public works project that they're putting into place. From the Blair School of Music, Joe Ray Phillips and Michael Rose. From the School of Engineering, Robert Pitts. Bob? Oh, there he is. From Peabody College, Deborah Rowe and Paul Yoder. From the Owen Graduate School of Management, Mark Cohen. From the School of Medicine, Bruce Byer, Roger Colburn, Jeffrey Davidson, James Duncavage, Howard Fuchs, Donna Hummel, Valentina Cohn, Peter Martin, Lynn Matresian, Robert Ossoff, Russell Reese, Nolan Tulipan, P. Anthony Weil, David Zeeler. Now, some faculty members were unable to be with us today, and I would also like to recognize their 25 years of service. They are Italo Bigioni. I mentioned Vicki Burris, Jorge Capdevilla, Bobby Coffey, Barbara Engelhardt, Marie Griffin, Stephen Han, Raymond Harris, Craig Lewis, he's in Washington solving all the securities problems that Bob raised, Julia Lewis, James May, Michael May, Jim Netterville, John Peach, Linda Seeley, Roland Stein, Arlene Tuckman, and Ida Ured. So I extend my congratulations to this remarkable group of individuals and sincere thanks to all of them for their extraordinary contributions to the university in so many fields and for their years of devoted service. Please join me in a round of applause for them.
How are we going to fit in here?
Mark, come on, Mark. How's that look? Come on. There we go. I know everybody just loves what they do here, but I can't help but think if our retirement plans were doing better. Yeah. Okay. Now, thanks to our faculty's brilliant work, Vanderbilt University clearly ranks among the top tier of research institutions in the world, with research support received from external sources nearly tripling over the past decade. This progress affirms our goal to advance healthcare, make new discoveries, and reveal new knowledge. Chancellor's Awards recognize excellence in research, scholarship, and creative expression for works presented or published in the preceding 3 years. It honors me to carry the title that is linked to these awards as they pay tribute to ideas and discoveries that make profoundly meaningful contributions to the betterment of our society. Each of these 5 awards carries a stipend of $1,000 and an engraved pewter julep cup. David, are you ready to assist me with these awards? Okay, I am very pleased to present the first award to Brant Eichmann, Associate Professor of Biological Sciences and Associate Professor of Biochemistry, for his article in the prestigious journal Nature entitled An Unprecedented Nucleic Acid Capture Mechanism for Excision of DNA Damage. Driven by a strong commitment to understand how proteins recognize and manipulate DNA structure to carry out various biological processes, Brant's laboratory is firmly positioned at the forefront of the field of DNA repair enzymes. The research described in his paper has attracted a tremendous amount of attention because it has showed a completely new mechanism by which DNA repair proteins can locate their target damage sites within the sea of undamaged DNA. Because of the chemical reactivity of DNA, if it is left unrepaired, chemicals can kill the cell or lead to DNA mutations that cause genetic diseases and cancer. Brant's work provides new insights into the ways that DNA repair enzymes recognize and go on to repair damaged DNA. The Eichmann Lab is making a significant impact by challenging existing paradigms, and in doing so, they have literally overturned more than 15 years of dogma related to DNA repair. Deservedly, Brandt is lauded by his colleagues across the country and around the world as a rising star in his field of study, for his formidable and distinctive accomplishments that opened the door to understanding an enormous family of human proteins that are essential for preventing cancer, for improving cancer treatment, and for understanding the basic coding of the human being. I am very, very pleased to present this award to Brandt Eichmann. Brandt, congratulations. Great. I heard you, didn't I? I heard you. You're great. That's amazing. Just amazing.
You said it very well.
Yeah, well.
Who wrote that?
I don't know. I did. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. David, get in here. You didn't put that damn tie on for nothing. Look at that. You should see him. He usually wears Hawaiian shirts. Sorry, Vaughn. Now, the next Chancellor's Award for Research goes to Larry Isaac, Gertrude Conaway Vanderbilt Professor of Sociology. Larry, please come forward. Now, Larry's path-breaking piece of scholarship titled Movements, Aesthetics, and Markets in Literary Change, Making the American Labor Problem Novel, published in the American Sociological Review, merits a Chancellor's Award for Research for its innovative interdisciplinary approach to examining and explaining this new fiction subgenre. Between 1870 and 1919, more than 500 labor problem stories were published in the United States. Merging sociology with history and humanities, Larry examines the reasons behind the emergence of this innovation in fiction and how novel writing spawned interest in the American labor problem. Using an approach that is both innovative and unique, he theorizes about the dynamics and social historical conditions that gave rise to this cultural innovation, the creation of new kinds of cultural objects, and the trajectory they take. Through this interdisciplinary lens, Larry produced an exemplary piece of research that has garnered two very prestigious awards. The Clifford Geertz Prize from the American Sociological Association section on culture, and the distinguished scholarly article presented by the ASA section on labor and labor movements. By devising a series of measures and models that allowed him to track historical changes, including emergence of a realistic aesthetic in literature, contested collective action spurred by the labor movement, and changes in copyright law, Larry achieves the notorious difficult process of pinning down cultural change. For his brilliant scholarship that is a wonderful example of creative theoretical work and empirical synthesis, which fostered a conversation between cultural sociology and social movement theory, two fields that often don't engage in dialogue, it is my distinct honor to present to Larry Isaac this award. Congratulations, Larry. Great, incredible.
What a wonderful summary.
No, it's incredible. Yeah.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
you were honored by you coming here. Didn't I sign your appointment letter too? All right, you take care.
Thank you so much.
For his recent publication in Nature, Umpalung Reactivity in Amide and Peptide Synthesis, I am thrilled to recognize Jeffrey Johnston, Professor of Chemistry. Jeffrey? Along with two of his chemistry graduate students, Jeff successfully developed a method that makes the key carbon-nitrogen bond with its opposite polarity relative to every known amide bond forming reaction. In the article, he details this new chemical reaction that unites two pieces while forming an amide functional group. Reactions that forge a bond between two molecules like this are fundamentally important, since they combine two simpler fragments and they stitch together to construct a more complex molecule. In short, Jeffrey and his students discovered and developed a new reaction that conceptually advances a century-old, heavily studied field of chemistry. This discovery holds tremendous value in all facets of chemical science, and its impact should extend well beyond chemistry and into areas where peptides are used as tools or prepared for their inherent therapeutic value, such as the creation of new polymers and materials and drug development. Notable not only for the mechanism by which the amide is formed, but also for the elegance and the simplicity of the protocol he developed. Jeff's work has been cited for refreshingly moving synthetic chemistry in a direction that redefines the rules with which molecules are assembled. For this outstanding piece of work, which combines scientific creativity with huge potential value to humanity, I am delighted to give a Chancellor's Award to Jeff. Jeffrey, you have my heartiest congratulations. Didn't we give you an endowed chair this year, too?
Yeah,
Are you Stevenson?
It's been a good year.
Yeah, it's been a good
you.
year. Yeah, you're
you.
great.
Yeah,
I'm so glad you came.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I missed you. I
remember
was
that.
over at the Institute of Drug Discovery. I missed you. Take care. Now, the next Chancellor's Award goes to Antonis Rokas, Assistant Professor of Biological Sciences, for publishing a remarkable total of 3 papers last year in the prestigious journals Nature, Proceedings of the National Academy, and Current Biology. Antonis, will you come forward, please? As you know, and this would even be true of Jack Roberts, having one article published in a journal of this caliber in a year is quite an accomplishment, but 3 simply outstanding. Antonis' work has significantly expanded our understanding of the evolution of metabolism in fungi. While much is known about the biochemical reactions making up metabolism, until his discoveries, very little had actually been known about how metabolic pathways and systems actually evolved over time. Typically embedded in their food sources, fungi are required to digest their food externally in the presence of competitors. As a result, different fungal species have specialized to, quote, eating different foods. This is reflected in their diverse primary metabolism. Additionally, since a large part of food digestion happens externally, fungi have evolved mechanisms to defend their food, which is reflected in their diverse secondary metabolism. How this diversity in primary and secondary metabolism is generated and maintained is the heart of what Antonis addresses in these papers. His work is praised by colleagues worldwide for questioning basic notions of how complex traits evolve within species and for provoking fresh thinking about variations in regulatory networks. By demonstrating that a secondary metabolite gene cluster was horizontally transferred between fungi, Antonis challenged our comfortable picture of Darwinian theory that says it occurs by vertical transmission. Lastly, by showing that galactose utilization gene clusters evolved independently and by different mechanisms in fungi, he challenged expectations that gene clusters in different taxa would simply be the product of inheritance from a common ancestor. Together, this work presents a rich and surprising view of the evolutionary process, and each paper makes a significant contribution to the field of evolution. For all 3, for the originality and the rigor that you have brought to your work, it is my honor to present this Chancellor's Award to Antonis Rokas. Congratulations, Antonis. I knew you were a winner when I hired you. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Okay, final Chancellor's Award. This award is a doubleheader. For their work in the neurobiology of reward, I am very pleased to recognize David Zalt, Associate Professor of Psychology and Associate Professor of Psychiatry, and Robert Kessler, Wilhelm Röntgen, Professor of Radiology and Radiological Sciences and Associate Professor of Psychiatry. Could you both come forward? Another incredible year for these two scientists. With mesolimbic dopamine reward system hypersensitivity in individuals with psychopathic traits published in Nature Neuroscience and dopaminergic network differences in human impulsivity published in Science, last year was an incredible year for this dynamic duo. For a number of years, the study of the neurobiological substrates of reward motivation has been an important major area of interest among psychologists. And neurobiology substrates of reward has also been a major area of interest more broadly. Clearly, understanding what motivates individuals to seek rewards is closely linked to disorders that have a major impact on our society. Yet, despite this long-standing and wide-ranging interest across many fields, a number of fundamental questions remained unanswered. Through their research, David and Bob offer the most compelling evidence to date that personality dimensions characterized by impulsive and antisocial behavior are strongly linked to individual differences in midbrain dopamine activation. First, using PET technology imaging to look at the key structure of the brain responsible for reward, motivation, and addiction, they showed that scores on a measure of the impulsive antisocial dimension of psychopathy were significantly correlated with dopamine release from the nucleus accumbens that was induced by the dopamine agonist amphetamine. In another procedure using functional MRI, they showed that the same measure of impulsive antisociality predicted an increase in metabolic activity during a monetary incentive task. Considering the huge challenges to measuring dopamine activity using PET and to measuring metabolic activity in small structures, David and Bob are richly deserving of this award for the countless hours they have dedicated to perfecting the methodology used in their studies. Their cumulative work represents a methodological tour de force that will have a long-term impact on studies in this area. Please join me in congratulating them for their outstanding research. David, great work. Bob, great work. Yeah, very important work. It is now time to present the Thomas Jefferson Award. This is an award made annually for distinguished service to Vanderbilt through extraordinary contributions as a member of the faculty in the councils and the governance of our university. It carries with it an engraved pewter goblet and a $2,500 prize. I am pleased to announce that this year's recipient of the Thomas Jefferson Award is Cassian Kowalczyk, Associate Professor of Communication Studies. Cass? Now, Cass has been a valued member of the Vanderbilt faculty for over 40 years, and he has served the university with rare dedication and unfaltering commitment. His vita chronicles a lifetime of committee and administrative work that includes chairing the Department of Communication Studies and Theater for 13 years and membership on the Arts and Science Faculty Council for 12 years, serving 4 times as chair and twice as secretary. He served a remarkable 5 terms on the Faculty Senate, and he was elected parliamentarian of both the College of Arts and Science Faculty Council and our Faculty Senate. In 1975, Cass was appointed as University Marshal, and over a span of 35 years, he has never missed a commencement ceremony. He has provided leadership, wisdom, and experience to work of countless committees, far too many for me to enumerate at this moment. However, one can be certain that for each role Cass took on, he would serve with the greatest distinction and always asking, what is the greater good of Vanderbilt University? He possesses a unique gift for leading his colleagues collegially, but with a focused sense of purpose towards consensus and resolution. Anyone who has been charged with bringing a group of highly intelligent faculty with various opinions together can appreciate why he's standing on this stage. He has earned the respect and admiration of colleagues across the campus for his willingness to mentor young faculty. This university is deeply indebted to Cass, not only for his impeccable years of service, but just as importantly for the time he has invested in preparing the next generation of leaders to ensure that reasoned guidance, civility, and courtesy remain sustaining values at Vanderbilt. It is my great privilege to present Cass with this year's Thomas Jefferson Award. Hearty congratulations, Cass. Never missed a convention. So you see. No. That's. The next award is the Earl Sutherland Prize for Achievement in Research. The Sutherland Prize is awarded annually to a member of the Vanderbilt faculty whose achievements in research, scholarship, or creative expression have received significant critical acclaim and are recognized nationally and internationally. Bestowed upon some of Vanderbilt's most legendary faculty, the Sutherland Prize is the highest honor that the university awards for research. The prize consists of $5,000 and an engraved pewter julep cup, and the winner's name is added to a silver bowl, which the recipient keeps for 1 year. This year, it is my great privilege to award the prestigious Sutherland Prize to Mark Lipsey, Research Professor of Public Policy and Director of the Peabody Research Institute. Mark? Now, Mark is a distinguished education researcher and scholar who has made major and substantive contributions to education studies and to the design of evaluation studies. He has produced seminal social science and public policy research on such topics as early childhood education and risk and intervention for juvenile delinquency and substance abuse. Recruited to Vanderbilt in 1992, he devoted 10 years as a professor of public policy and director of Peabody's graduate program. And in 2002, voluntarily made the decision to give up his tenured position to devote 100% of his time to research and the problems that he seeks to address. In 2008, he established the Peabody Research Institute, which focuses on conducting research to improve educational programs and policies and services for children and families. Notably, the Institute provides opportunities for graduate students and postdocs to participate in significant research projects and is exemplary of the unique educational experiences that have contributed to Peabody's 2-year standing as U.S. News and World Report's #1 ranking. Mark's work is having a transformative effect on the quality of education in Tennessee, and it is a helpful antidote to the public discourse that seeks to make public policy in these controversial areas by anecdote rather than by good science. In collaboration with the state's Department of Education, Mark and his co-PI, Dale Farron, are conducting a 5-year, $6 billion study to examine the effectiveness of Tennessee's pre-kindergarten program. Their findings that indicate major gains by children in pre-K programs over children not enrolled in such programs are already having a transformative influence on government funding for early childhood programs and will no doubt influence the way that others conduct future evaluation studies and make public policy. Mark's peers praise his scholarship as pioneering, foundational, and his papers as establishing the very best practice in evaluation research. His co-authored textbook, Evaluation, A Systematic Approach, is the most widely used text in the field. In recognition of his outstanding research and scholarship contributions, U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder appointed Mark to the Science Advisory Board of the Justice Department, where he joins a distinguished panel of scholars and practitioners to examine the critical issue of evidence-based approaches for crime prevention. He also serves on the Governor's Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. For his outstanding work, which is shaping social interventions, educational advancement, and the advancement of educational and social science research, and plays a significant role in advancing the betterment of our society, please join me in recognizing the extraordinary scholar, Mark Lipsey. Mark, it heartens me to present you with the Earl Sutherland Prize for Achievement in Research. Congratulations. Long time coming. Really. Yeah, well deserved. Absolutely incredible. Didn't the governor kind of change his policy? They were going to cut it out of the gate, right? Yeah, and he said, well, let's see what Lipsey says.
Exactly, yeah.
Thank you. As David said at the outset, every year when I address you, I am charged to advise you on the state of the university. I want to begin this year by acknowledging what is all on our minds: the discord in Washington and the absolute paralysis in our government and the economic uncertainty in our nation and in global financial markets. Possibly Will Rogers' observation has never felt more true than now. As he said, ancient Rome declined because it had a Senate. Now, what's going to happen to us with both a House and a Senate? This past June, I went to Washington to speak with our representatives to try to clarify the nature of the troubles and challenges currently facing research universities and academic medical centers, and to ask them to put these concerns front and center as they deliberated cuts in federal spending and a vote on the debt ceiling. I also strongly encouraged them, and I told them, I said, when you get down to making all the big changes you want to make and you set priorities, I challenge you to come up with any more important than education and research. I stressed to them that research and an access to a great education at a research university fuel our nation's economy, and they validate the American dream that so many talk about. Our leading research universities, I emphasized, are simply America's greatest resource. A trip to D.C. can be a challenging experience, even in the best of times. So I was very heartened that almost all of our House members, as well as both of our senators, found ample time to speak with me. From both sides of the aisle, I heard nothing but support and admiration and gratitude for Vanderbilt and its mission. But on the flight home, after thinking a little bit about the acrimony and the volatile air in Washington, I grew discouraged about the partisan atmosphere, choking, gagging Washington, and gumming up our governmental processes. I returned very concerned about impending cuts in research funding and health care, and added to that, potential default by our great nation. The protracted and strained process leading up to an increase in the debt ceiling did nothing to allay my concerns. If anything, they grew. With Washington, D.C. and the debt ceiling fiasco looking like a wildly weaving semi-trailer truck in my rearview mirror, I reflected on the past academic year, and I began preparation with you for this new academic year. I felt a sense of confidence in a very odd disjunction as our nation continues to struggle mightily, as many suffer, and the global economy veers from one major financial banking crisis to another. Vanderbilt's vital signs were stronger than ever. Sure, we have our challenges, and you're always getting asked to squeeze your budgets. We're always talking about sacrifice. But the results are clear. Our academic ascent continued at an increased pace during this past year. Our faculty grew more distinguished, our incoming students better than ever. We had an absolutely outstanding year of hiring. There's so many to mention, but I'd especially like to welcome some of our new colleagues. Larry Bartels, the May Worthen Shane Professor of Politics and Public Policy, who joins us from Princeton. Jonathan Metzel, Fred B. Rentschler II Professor of Sociology and Medicine, Health, and Society, fresh off of Guggenheim, who joins us from the University of Michigan to head our program in Medicine, Health, and Society. Vaughn Jones joins us from Berkeley as a distinguished professor of mathematics. Vaughn is a member of the National Academy of Sciences and a Fields Medalist. Bruce Morrow, Edward A. Malloy Chair of Catholic Studies, a leader in theological research, who joins us from Boston College. Seth Karp, who will head our organ transplant center and comes to us from Harvard and Mass General Hospital. Professor of Pediatrics, and J.C. Peterson Professor of Pulmonary Pediatrics, Michael DeBon, who joins us from Washington University. Michael is a member of the Institute of Medicine and a leader in research and treatment of sickle cell disease. These are extraordinary hires, and we are fortunate to welcome so many great new colleagues. I'd also like to pay tribute to our faculty who have received recognition and visibility because of their extraordinary scholarship and leadership in their field. John Gore was elected to the National Academy of Engineering. Kevin Johnson was elected to the Institute of Medicine. David Wright received a Kavli Fellowship in the Frontiers of Science. Owen Jones, you might have seen today, announced, received a $4.8 million grant from the MacArthur Foundation to lead a national program in law and neuroscience. 8 of our colleagues, Kirill Bolotin, Jay Dickerson, Hao-Sheng Lua, William David Merriman, Nabil Siman, Hak-Jun Sung, Robert Webster, and Jamie Young all received NSF Career Awards. Brad Martin received an NSF PCASE Presidential Early Career Award. Marilyn Ritchie and Andreas Berlin won Sloan Fellowships. Marina Cristina Santos Pangilinon won an American and ACLS Fellowship. Jane Landers and Tom Greger won NEH Fellowships. Ed Friedman, Len Bickman, Philip Liederman Ackerman won Fulbright Awards. Bill Cafaro won a Guggenheim Fellowship. Vivian Freend won a Terra Fellowship in Art History. And Gary Gerstle was named the Harmsworth Visiting Professor in American History at Oxford. 3 of our colleagues, you might have noticed, over a short period of months, Colin Diane, Nancy King, and Leor Halevi, authored editorials in the Sunday editions of the New York Times. Many of our colleagues wrote great books. Let me mention 2. Dan Sharfstein and Holly Tucker published important books that received exceptional reviews in the New York Times and The Economist. The distinction and visibility of our faculty largely determine the excellence of the university. It is also the force that draws the best students as well as generous philanthropic gifts and grant support. Because of our collective achievements, because of your excellence, we will be able this year to continue to hire aggressively, to start new programs, to grow our current programs, invest in new space for faculty and students, and to continue to invest even more in research and graduate programs. Sure, we're always trying to look at our costs, but we will be able to invest in ways that many of our peers will struggle to match. I want to assure you that the university in these very challenging times is doing extraordinarily well. During the year, I actually keep all these dashboards and data lists and keep track of the vitals of the institution, just as Judy Ashner showed me all the things in the neonatal unit. Brett, our CFO, and I were always looking at all of these indicators. So let me share them with you. They're important to keep in mind as we gain a clear sense of changes emanating from Washington. Here's some of the factors, not a comprehensive list, but enough to provide a framework for some discussion and give us a guide for the year ahead. Our endowment. We've had strong returns, and it's now almost at the same level it was before the Great Recession. Our bottom line financial results were $98 million, the best in our history. I cannot do enough to thank Jeff Balzer, Wright Pinson, David Posh, David Rayford, everyone over there who does extraordinary work in the most challenging environment The rules and the markets are literally changing in front of their eyes. And I have full confidence that whatever happens in healthcare, Jeff and his team will be and already are way ahead of things. Our research awards last year totaled $585 million. There was a little decrease from the prior year, and I don't like that. But if you take out the one-time stimulus funding, actually went up. Undergraduate admissions, you've probably taught some of our new undergraduates, freshmen, received about 25,000 applications, admitted at a 16% rate. Freshmen had an average class rank of 6%, and a statistic I thought I would never quote. The average SAT is 1450. Another statistic I didn't think I'd hear, 29% diversity mix. 66, two-thirds of our undergraduates are on scholarship support. Strong results, excellent demand for what you do, your research, our PhD applications. 7,251 this year, and we admitted only 12%. The hospitals and clinics now have 22 days of cash on hand. And you say, well, what's so great about 22 days of cash on hand? Well, I'll remind you, Jeffrey started with -6 when he took over. So he gets a victory lap. He gets a victory lap in an automobile, you know, a Maybach or something like that. We exceeded our goal of $100 million, actually receiving $108 million in endowment gifts for our no-loan financial aid program, and we are continuing that. Now, I know these statistics I ran through quickly. They may be a blur before you, and they cannot capture the distinction, the strength, and the greatness of our university. But actually, when I'm watching too much CNN, or when I think Bloomberg will tell me a different story, or the VIX will be different on CNBC, I'm encouraged to see how our university continues to ascend, and to the best of our ability, we try to control in a turbulent world our own destiny. I'm confident we're going to have a great year. I want to close by welcoming my colleagues I've known for decades back, and I want to welcome the new members to our community. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for your devotion to Vanderbilt and for the sense of community and shared sacrifice you have brought to these times of challenge. With that, I'm going to answer some questions. Now, you don't know. You may not like the answers. So I actually asked for questions beforehand, and it's not like I need the prep work. I mean, I'm an old appellate lawyer, but I thought if someone really has a burning question, I want to be able to answer it. So I actually got a great question, which I get quite frequently, and I'm going to try to answer these questions, but I have all these other people here. But to show you that I do try to keep my eye on these things, first question was concern about the coal power plant and its impact on the university's image. We have this beautiful campus, we heal, we cure, and then all of a sudden, we look like a steel mill with this coal power plant. Why don't we look at things like solar rooftop? Are we looking at a solar energy initiative? Let's make Vanderbilt more green. So let me take a shot at this. This is very, very important, and this is something David talked about. The Senate and the university administration have worked really, really hard. And we have an outstanding Office of Sustainability and Environmental Management. Andrea George leads that up. She presented to the Faculty Senate, engaged in dialogue with the faculty, and we've actually hired a campus recycling coordinator. I'm very much of the view that we can make a difference. Everything we do. Not just, why do we have a coal plant? Why are we printing out so much? Are you recycling in your department? Those things really matter, and they set a tone. We're also in partnering with TVA to install an electric car charging station near the Center building on 21st Avenue. I'm not a big believer in building parking spaces, particularly for undergraduates. Our campus is a walking campus. You can get to pretty much everywhere you need to go by walking or maybe taking a taxi, or if someone does have a car, that's fine. We've gone to the Zip car, commend Jerry Fife for that, which is, kind of just come and get the car and use it for a couple hours. It's been a smashing success. And my view is I'll create more parking spaces for Zip cars. We're the largest single purchaser of green power in the NES distribution area, and we've made TVA's green power switch a part of our power portfolio. We're going to continue to look at things like solar energy, and I am a big one, as my father used to say, when not in use, turn off the juice. Now, what about the coal power plant? Well, first thing you got to realize is we can't depend on local power. And why can't we depend on local power? We are a level 4 trauma center. We have a children's hospital. And if power goes off, it is a disaster. And if there is a disaster in the area, you can bet all those patients are coming to Vanderbilt. So it is absolutely essential that we have a large independent source of power to meet the unexpected challenges that could confront us if power would go out on the NES system. Now, let me talk a little bit about how we try to deal with the issues of our power plant. We have a cogeneration plant, and it actually has reduced gas emissions by 20%, 100,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide each year. If we bought that from NES, we'd actually have higher emissions. The reason is, and I'm not an engineer, but I don't know, Dan Fleetwood's out there. I think he's chair of EE. If only power were transmitted so efficiently, it actually turns out when you move it along the lines, there's a lot of leakage. And so the shorter you transmit it, the less you emit, the less you lose. So actually producing our own power at our power plant emits far less than emitting if we bought the power from ENS, because we're just shooting it one block. There's not the leakage that comes through the whole transmission system. We try to do cogeneration. Use when we have heat, we use the steam to power other things. That's more efficient. And we really do try to overall look at what are the assets we have. I guess, if somebody said, here's $100 million, get rid of coal, I'd take it up. But we really want to try to ameliorate some of the negative externalities that can be generated at certain levels. We have started to report our carbon footprint, and we will be updating it. And we actually, in the prior years up till the last release, we decreased our carbon footprint 7.8 and 2.4% overall. So it was 7.8 down the last year and 2.4% the prior years. So we're still looking for ways. I think new technology may make promises, but I really think a lot of it is kind of our responsibility on how, with our assets, we can reduce emissions. Okay, another question here. This was a great question. 2 questions. This person wrote to me and was kind of concerned about the disjunction between research in the College of Arts and Science and research at the medical center. And I think the gist of it was these are different animals, and it's not a, quote, level playing field. I fully understand, and let me start out by saying one of the big differences is, to me, it's obvious, which is, and we don't do what some universities do, which is you just put all the biological sciences together in a division. Our biological sciences department teaches undergraduates. And the minute you decide that you're going to have a department that you expect, thank you, Brant, to be tops in research, but also teach undergraduates, it's going to be a little different. Just like when I go to Jeffrey and say, Jeffrey, why don't you send 10 of your biochemistry professors and throw in Terry Dermody as a player to be named later and teach undergraduates? He's like, no, can't do it. There's a different model. There's a different economic model. So the big difference I see is you're teaching undergraduates. The salary recovery pressures are not quite the same, and I wish we could level the playing field, but I'd say both ways. Jeff and I talk regularly about the passion that the medical school and the nursing school faculty have for teaching undergraduates. So there is a little difference at the starting point. I believe very much in the one university model. This year we consolidated pre-award. I don't know if you've noticed any differences. I don't know if that's bad or good if you have. We're going to consolidate the post-award. I think Jeffrey and Richard have really said we are going to integrate the infrastructure and the systems of research like never before. And I can tell you, it was not done before. And Jeffrey and Richard deserve a lot of credit. So we're trying to do a better job there. I think we can build on some success. The IGP is a great program for integration. We built joint space. Obviously, when we build more space, it will be joint space. And I think there have been some good successes in chemical biology. Jeff Johnson, who won an award, works in the Institute for Chemical Biology, which is very involved in the drug discovery, nanoscience, and we are this year going to start a new trans-institutional program in engineering and medical devices to really try to integrate on the academic level the incredible opportunities we have to develop our own devices. So we really need to do a better job on that, and I think we're making some progress, but certainly more to be done. Excellent question. This was one of my favorites, too. It was the second question. The Chancellor's Office and the Board of Trusts have mandated that restricted funds held by professors in endowed account be spent down completely within a defined period. So I don't know if this has become an issue. I've had a few people mention it to me. And let me try to answer this. When we do a gift, there's a contract. And it's a legally enforceable contract. And I don't know if any of you heard about something called the Robertson litigation at Princeton University that said they weren't following the contracts at the Woodrow Wilson School. And there are about $300 million at stake. The endowments have been growing. Princeton, I think, spent $50 million on legal fees. And it's always great for your fundraising to get stories in the New York Times, the Washington Post, Chronicle of Higher Education that you're not spending endowment money or you're not policing what it's being spent on. So the first thing I have to say is this is a gift, and it's a gift that's guided by a contract. And the contract actually says you will spend at this rate. The worst thing is when I go to ask somebody for an endowed chair or a gift, and they say, well, what's my other gift doing? And I'm kind of like, it's been sitting in someone's account for 3 years. We can't have that. There are also legal issues and fiduciary issues, and Brett would tell you audit issues. When we're about a $4 billion institution, and if we're sitting around with a lot of money sitting in these accounts, the first thing an auditor says is, are you spending these? What's your plan to do that? So I think anyone who knows me knows that I'm like the thrifty squirrel saving up the nuts. I'm not looking to have a rash of spending, but we clearly, if it's $100, $200 million, we've got to be faithful to our donors and spend the money for the purposes for which they asked us. Every year, Carolyn, Camilla, Jim, all the deans, Chris, they write letters to the donor. Here's what we did with your money this year. And here's what's in the account. And they ask questions. And so I know that that autonomy is very important. I know that It's responsible to look like rainy day funds. I know it's sunny outside. Last 4 years, it's been raining. It's been pouring. So we need to responsibly move these monies through the system. And if we don't, we will have a major, major problem. Brett, do you want to add anything to that? Okay. So I'm very sorry that it looks like I'm being heavy-handed or the board is being heavy-handed, but trust me, very good reasons for this. Right. I've got a great question, must be on everyone's mind, about grants. What are we doing? We're doing so well with these grants. You know, we even beat the pre-stimulus numbers. Tripled in the last 12 years. Well, I got to tell you, the external environment doesn't look good. So I think you'll be pleased to know that all the vice chancellors, particularly Brett, Jeffrey, and Richard, do scenario planning all the time. And one of the saddest things I discovered was we were looking at Medicare spend. And I was saying to Wright and Jeff, what if they don't pay Medicare because of the debt ceiling? I already had the lawyer response, which is, I'm not sending them my income taxes. I'm going to set it off against it. You know what? We pay them more than they give us. I discovered that Medicare is about 40% of our work and 15% of our revenue. Imagine an airplane like that. You know, that's so we saw that, you know, Medicare could hit us. The amount for Jeffrey was about $60 million $60 million a month all in, and then Richard was about $10 million. So what do? Well, here's what we have to do. Number one, we started to do this. You've got to build these endowments up to support research. You know, why do you think we move $150 million into a quasi-endowment for graduate education and research? You know, why did we award, 40 chairs last year? You've got to get these endowments flowing to substitute for the drop of the federal purse. So on the research side, we need to diversify our research revenue. And Jeffrey and Richard do an outstanding job fundraising. So that's the first thing. You've got to create alternative streams. Tech transfer, I'm very hopeful about. It's going to take some time, but I think we're really headed in the right direction now. The second thing that I'm a big believer in is, you know, some people in the university say, well, here are the 10 things I'd like to do. You know, I'm a big believer in what are the 3 things you have to do given who we are and given the mission we have. That's what we should do. So we need to be just tirelessly focused on who we are and what we do and look at that sort of investment. And I think there's a scenario under which, now, you know, this is in my more optimistic moments, I think there's a scenario under which actually our research funding goes up. And it goes like this. If you look at the American research universities, there are a number of them that are very inefficient at doing research. And there's a real question, can they do research effectively and efficiently in a reduced budgetary environment? So there are things called winner-take-all markets. And I think what could happen is you could see a drop-off of some universities that maybe got into the research game say, you know what, we can't sustain it. And you may see a movement of that research funding to universities like Vanderbilt that are research giants and that, frankly, do research much, much more efficiently than a lot of universities. So I'm not discounting the federal issues, but I think moving money into endowments, I think looking very, very closely at the investments we make overall. I mean, someone will come to me, and I love art. I said, you know, they said, well, let's have an art museum on campus. And I said, well, art museum? You can go down to the Frist. That's not a real art museum. I said, you think I'm going to have a real art museum? $30 million. We've got to make choices about who we are and what we are. And no one, I mean, I love everything everyone proposes, but we've got to say, who are we? We teach the best kids in the world. We do the best research in the world. And that's where the dollars go. So I look at the outside world and I think, Jesus, crazy. But I think we have some good plans going forward. I've gone on too long. Those are some. Anyone want to ask any questions? I'm open to anything. Anything. All right. Let's go drink. Thank you.